Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to 2024 in Summary and Asterlit Reading. We're so glad that we have you all here today. 2024 has been such a great year for Asterlit. We've had such incredible issues with etc. and translatability, and all of you guys have been such incredible contributors. So today is really just about celebrating you and all of the amazing work that you've contributed to Asterlit this year, and we're so excited to get started. So without further ado, here are some of our Asterlit 2024 statistics. This is kind of a reading tradition where we kind of share some of the Asterlit accomplishments that we've had this year. So we've had around 700 submissions across two issues, which is really awesome. We're so glad that we have so many different submissions from over 54 countries every year, and we get to kind of uh, understand like the cultural nuances of writing and really kind of engage with an international community. And that's something we really value at Asterlit. So we're so glad that you all were able to contribute this year. We've got 6 podcast episodes. If you haven't already, you can check out our podcast on Spotify at Aster. We've got 2 issues, etc., and translatability. And we have 8 new team members this year. And some of our new team members, Jane and Nabiha, are going to be presenting at this event and kind of helping to facilitate this reading today. So we're super excited to have them here. And we have one mission, which is to empower and connect youth from around the world through creative writing. So again, we're so glad we're all here. You're all here. And let's get started. Okay, so our first person is Leela.
Okay, so we're starting off with Leela. Leela Raj Sankar is a writer from Arizona. Her work has appeared in Had, Gastropodal Literary, and Peach Magazine, among others. Her debut chapbook, Heat Death of the Universe, was published by Fifth Wheel Press in 2023. Say hi to her on Twitter at Fictionalism, and she'll be reading Fantasia.
Awesome. So Leela, we're so glad to have you here. And whenever you're ready, you can get started reading your poem. And Jane will drop the link to your poem in the chat so everyone can follow along.
Hi everyone, so glad to be here. This is my poem Fantasia. 1. The nightmare goes like this. I wander for miles and miles barefoot, aimless, holding gunmetal fingers to my lips. Watch. The pupils dilate and contract and dilate again. I am both a noun and an adjective, a wide-eyed prophet limping on 2 broken ankles, syncopated 1, 2, 3 waltz. My own brownness feels unnatural, like it belongs on someone else. I am someone's good American daughter, obediently and perfunctorily celebratory of all the right holidays. When my mother teaches me to make rice, the water never seems to run clear. I pace anxiously around the kitchen in tight, concentric circles. The Indian store, I sound out the words in my mouth, vowels always a little off. Kurukate vatakurumbu purimpoli. Am I good enough at wearing my skin yet? Am I doing this the way I'm supposed to? Do the hyphens still read nothing but gimmick? Who knows? Maybe it doesn't matter. Welcome home. Have you found yourself yet? 2. I've not yet been taught silence or how to turn myself imaginary. I forge the weapon of my own downfall and call it progress, reclamation. Whose hands are these anyway, with all that turmeric stained under the nails? Cleanliness is a privilege afforded to few. Oil spills in the lake in slow motion, holographic. Driver's high beams turn my face to ash. Who the hell are you to be disgusted? This is the way of things. This is how life has been since the beginning of time. Do you some good to remember that, kid. 3. Not everything is about race until it is. My mother doesn't trust anyone, much less me. Watch. The pupils dilate and contract and wait. I know how the story ends, with history drowning in the Pacific. You know what? Good riddance. 4. And here the smell of exhaust, here the sun shining on our backs like a target, here the railroad tracks, a never-ending road sprawling to oblivion. How am I supposed to know if I'm real to begin with? Don't get me wrong. I don't want you to die. I just want you to answer the question, what is fair? Are you convinced of my humanity yet? Have I put on a good enough show? I wore fear like it was my birthright, glassy-eyed, always so ashamed of the space between me and myself, unnatural. My skin crawls with it. You tell me, was it supposed to feel this way? My sister pokes my shoulder, asks me to translate our parents' conversations. I say nothing. Am I even Indian if I can't speak the language? Only understand bits and pieces cobbled together haphazard. The sentences hover just out of reach, swarms of gnats in the still air. My jaw rearranges the sounds. I chew louder, raucous. 5. This is progress. I am grateful, smiling. I'm the right type of brown girl. I promise. Watch. The pupils dilate and contract and dilate again. The wound asks, "What are you willing to do without?" Like it doesn't know the answer. Like it doesn't know I've spent the entire summer picking a scab over and over and over to no avail. This is progress. This is the way of the future. I promise. 6. What am I willing to do without? You're asking the wrong question. The year I was born, my mother became an American citizen. 18 years later, she still has nowhere to put her rage. Oh God, maybe it's hereditary. Maybe I'll never escape the taste of panic forever on my tongue, piecemeal lexicon unable to find the right words in the right language at the right time. What am I willing to do without? You tell me. I open my mouth and out pours the sky. 7. The nightmare goes like this. Everyone has forgotten me. I haven't lived my life the way I plan, or I haven't lived my life at all, or maybe it's both. The secret is that I don't know anything better than I know suburban America. Coast to coast, the desert opens its arms. I cough in the dusk. White boys find me more exhausting than exotic. I find myself intolerable. I never unlearn those consonants, D for T, always too harsh. I can't describe what was taken from me, or whatever, or maybe from us, whatever the fuck my people really means, but I want it back. I want to put my hand through the plate glass of the girl I was supposed to be, girl who belongs nowhere, girl in love with the sun. The secret is just this: our bodies preserved in amber now, forever. The secret is just this: the light shatters upon entry. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. Okay. Thank you so much, Leela. Okay, so now Jane's gonna give a little bit of her insight into your piece, and kind of then we'll open it up for some more audience input into your piece because we really think it's beautiful and incredible, and we're so glad that you were able to contribute it to us this year.
Yeah, we had for your piece, we loved the poetic restraint and skill used to convey the complexity of identity written between the lines. And we really enjoyed the freely flowing lyrical form because it really effectively embodies the magical qualities of the Fantasia musical form.
So thank you so much, Leela, for reading, and your piece is just really wonderful, and we're so glad you're a contributor. So now we're going to open it up to other audience members to see if anyone else has anything that they'd like to say about Leela's piece or ask Leela about her writing process or some of the motifs in her piece or anything else that you guys would like to say. So does anyone else have anything that they'd like to say about Leela's piece before we move on to the next reader?
I just wanted to say that I really, really enjoyed this piece, and I just thought it was really beautifully complex, how it's able to fit so much, and how the form really contributes to making each word and each sentence and each phrase feel so much more dilated and impactful. And I, this was one of my favorite pieces, so thank you so much. It was really great hearing it live.
Thank you all so much. It's really sweet.
Okay, awesome. So thank you, Leela. Sorry, Zoom is being weird right now. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next reader is going to be Rosalind.
All right, so now I'm going to be telling you about Rosalind, and she has submitted every good poem I write is about the apocalypse to the Aster. Rosalind Kong is a high school poet from Pennsylvania. She writes about the end of the world too much and can never decide on what to do with her future. Find her online at rosalindkong.card.co. So now she'll be reciting her wonderful poem for you guys. Whenever
Hi
you're ready.
everyone. Hi everyone. I'm Rosalind, and this is my poem. Every good poem I write is about the apocalypse. As if the world has to end before I will realize it was beautiful. In each poem, a new grief. The birds keep singing despite the rain again and again and again, echoing each other until they meld into an unnatural choir. It is beautiful. It is haunting. It is the soundtrack to a silver sunset. We are running into the horizon, finally. Every step I take is a small apocalypse, a change, an ending. I have practiced the steps to this dance too many times, and yet I have never once moved my feet. When the music swells and the end credits roll, tell me you'll keep going even after the story ends. Tell me you'll keep dancing even after the orchestra comes to rest. Tell me you'll keep walking even after we reach the edge of the world and step into the sky.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rosalind. Your piece is amazing. And just like before, Nabiha is going to share a little bit of her input into your piece, and then we'll open it up for larger input.
Mhm. Yeah. So, Rosalind, we loved how you explored the contradictions and bittersweet reality written about literally the end of the world, but more figuratively also endings in general, and how multiple metaphors, sounds, and diction in our daily lives have also shown similarities in how we perceive endings, beginnings, and passage in lives. Reading these poems feels so vintage and film-like.
So thank you so much for sharing, Rosalind. So our next reader is someone I'm going to present. It is Sabine reading The Crows Adore Me. So Sabine is a 21-year-old student of creative writing and literature studying at Cardiff University in Wales. Her work can be found in Mulberry Literary, NAR, Mixed Mag, and Posterity magazine. She's an editor for Quench magazine and managing editor of Rover magazine. So we're so happy to have you here, Sabine. Whenever you're ready, you can feel free to read your piece, and Jane will drop the link in the chat.
Thank you for having me. This piece is called The Crows Adore Me. The crows adore me. I want us to grieve together. They leave a penny from the early 2000s on the doorstep instead of marigolds. The farmer's almanac says they're for expressing grief. My mother's house is bursting with funeral bouquets. I don't really need the crows to bring me anymore. I am too old to need anything from anybody, but I want many things desperately. I want a yard of pink satin ribbon, all the keys I have ever lost and remade, an advanced degree, uncrooked teeth, unsullied high school memories, more positive feelings on my womanhood, birthing hips. My mother collected all her crow-given gifts in a crystal bowl on the mantel. Each one is tragically material. There is a box in the corner of my mother's closet containing everything white she ever owned, her big box of luck. Her wedding dress is bundled up at the bottom. It coughs up dust from the 90s. I don't know if it's lucky anymore. The silk has yellowed. I tried on the dress once, even though I wasn't thin and it ripped up the seam. I sewed it up with black embroidery thread and said a genie prayer in hopes that my mother wouldn't see it. She got married in Cape Canaveral in Florida. She had an obsession with the great beyond. When the Challenger shuttle exploded, my mother taught me how to mourn. I take the white pillar candles out of the box and light them in every window of the house, as I was taught, and from a distance, my whole world is on fire. They bring me a paper doll. She's soaking wet from the rain. I let her dry first so she doesn't fall apart in my hands. A wet paper doll is a metaphor for something. The crows know my inner child. When it's warm enough, I replace her with a fistful of sunflower seeds. Her paper has creased in the inclement weather. She looks like one of those lost women my mother pointed out to me by corner stores. Lostness is characterized by old skin and smudge makeup and wide pupils that make you look sick on something, a face that has run off in the rain. I am L'Oreal anti-aging while I am still soft in the hopes of being unlost for as long as I can. All girls should be pretty. I make her new again with Sharpie marker and non-toxic paint and lay her to rest on the mantle. I miss being a child. I was one of those little girls who hunted fairies. I wanted them to claim me. It is the very last age I longed to feel small. I would bait the fairies with star mix. I pictured them ripping up fried eggs and cola balls in their fragile little hands, tiny little things living on processed sugar and trans fats. My mother asked me to stop. She told me my yearning would attract rats, but I want to be small so badly I started emptying whole packages of sweets in the bougainvillea beds. The rats came. They rationed the fairies through the winter. I spent an afternoon holding up a bone fragment to my laptop screen. I want to know what the crows picked apart to tell me I am loved. A mouse, a stray, some part of a sparrow. I decide it's the rib of a fawn. The crows killed a sacred thing for me. Or just pulled something slick and shimmery from the spring thaw. I feel sick. I am not one of those girls into death. I hate the perceived dirtiness of it. I soak the bone in peroxide before I will even touch it. There is nothing on the doorstep, and I am devastated. I stare at my bare feet and try to imagine they are given to me by crows. My weak ankles are a gift. My weak ankles should go up on the mantle. One of them is watching me from the bare tree that I sat under in the summers. I wonder if it has seen that I am undeserving of old pennies. My mother fed them live spiders in glass saucers, and I give them sunflower seeds in the musty concrete. I hate them. They stick in my teeth. I want the crows to shower me in porcelain crowns and tell me I am forgiven. I am loved. I think I have an ugly cry like an animal missing a rib. The crow flies away. It knows I am not my mother. She had a very distinctive scream. I develop a benign obsession with the house across the street. The white picket fence is taunting in a suburban monster kind of way. If I squint my eyes, the wood becomes fangs. The girl and her mother are both very bright and very pink, like bubblegum or gashes. It's just the two of them. I want to be her. I want to be the mother. Everything she wears is inundated with daisies. The farmer's almanac says she is innocent. There are daisies sprouting up on their lawn, forcing their yellow heads through the domestic dream. I want a happy, shiny daughter like hers. I want to teach her how to make daisy chains. I want to teach her how to hold every kind of knife. I watch them from the window and imagine they cannot see me. They wave good morning. I want to give her something of mine, something precious and light in her hands, something important that I have picked up off the ground and think of her, so she has to keep it and have it and keep it safe. I don't want to be a mother or a girl. I want to be a crow. Thank you.
That piece is just absolutely incredible, Sabine. I think like also I just want to say like your voice when you're reading that is like absolutely captivating. Like I was just so engaged the entire time that you were reading that. Like my brain was going wild. I think a lot of like what we loved about your piece from the beginning was kind of like how you were able to weave so many thematic elements together. Like I think just like the fairies and girlhood and a mother-daughter relationship and also just like the overarching narrative of like these crows that keep like appearing in your life. And I think also just like I think we found a lot of relatability in your piece, just in terms of like a lot of your grounding images, like the L'Oreal face creams, and then the farmer's almanacs. And I think it's just like a super unique examination of grief and love. And I think just also a super unique take with the crows. And you just did a really incredible job. And we've reread this piece. I've reread this piece lots of times, and I think just every time you kind of gain like new images and new perspectives on loss and love. And thank you so much for sharing. We're really proud that we got to publish this piece.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Okay, so our next reader is going to be Janelle.
Hello, hi. It's such a privilege to be here.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
we're
coming.
so glad to have you and your piece. Yeah, and Janelle is an MFA in creative writing student at De La Salle University. She tries her best to pen down pent up emotions and unnamed feelings. When she's not on her notes app, she's busy searching for more corporate ways to say thanks and congratulations.
Janelle, whenever you're ready, you can feel free to read, and then, like usual, the link will be dropped in the chat.
Yes. So, Katrina, maybe if we drive back up the slopes of Kitwinan and sit by the brink of the bridge, I try to push you and pretend I'm not the one fault. When you notice the scars on my cheeks, I'll rehash ghost stories. How I survived them, how I barely got out. I'll say I have battle scars, you see. They're just more visible on my face than other parts of my body. The craters like badly tattooed freckles on my cheeks. They're permanent marks, and you'll say they look harsher in this light. I'll tell you they've always been like that, and it's been years, but it takes a while to notice. I'll avert your gaze, and we'll stare off into the cities we've lived in our whole lives.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading. We really loved the structure of your poem and the really concise sentence structure you use. And from the start to the finish, we really thought that this had so much impact on us, especially through your such powerful diction. And the line that stood out to us the most is the final one, and we'll stare off into the cities we've lived into our whole lives. And it just captures adolescent desire and longing in a way that feels so permanent. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for reading, Janelle. And I realized that like the past few pieces, we haven't left room for audience input. So if anyone has anything to say about Janelle's piece or any of the previous pieces that we've read, now is the time to do so. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to add or ask about any of the pieces we've seen so far?
I really, really, really like this piece. This piece has stood with me since the very first time I've read it, and I often find myself like pulling it up when I'm hiking or just somewhere really high. Like I think I was in San Francisco and looking into the city and just pulling it up and just reading the last line over and over again. Like it truly means so much to me. So thank you so much for submitting it to us, and I'm really grateful to have read it and have been able to keep it forever. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your perspective, Emma. Yes, we all kind of have super personal relationships with all of the pieces that you guys submit. And I think a lot of us will go back and read and kind of like treat them like kind of just poetry that we would read in our daily lives. And it's kind of just like every issue is like a new book of poetry that we get to like rifle through. And it's really awesome. Okay, so our next reader is Suparna. So Nabiha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Suparna Majumdar submitted his prose translation to Asterlet, and he is an undergraduate student of comparative literature at Jadavpur University in India. She loves writing nonfiction pieces and reading all sorts of books. Stargazing is one of her favorite hobbies. So now she'll be reading her piece to you guys.
Hello everyone. So I'll be reading an excerpt from my piece Translating Translation. The Latin word translationem denotes an act of carrying across, an act of transportation. In the 12th century, the French word translation meant the process of removal of a saint's body or relics and transporting them to a new place. Translation today is the act of rendering of a text from one language to another. It is a process of spatial transportation and thus is a spatial metaphor. With its roots in the Greek word metaphora, the word metaphor too signifies a form of translation, the translation of ideas and images into words. Is translation a unilinear singular act? It is so in the global north, primarily because of the fact that almost every country in the West is monolingual. But in the global south, the process of translation acquires a myriad of dimensions. From the radical theory of cannibalistic translation propounded by Geraldo de Campos in Brazil as a resistance against the long history of cultural and political dominance by the Europeans to the act of J translation introduced by Judy Wakabayashi in Japan, the South has always shown diverse approaches to the single act. In India, the situation is even more varied. A country of 1.42 billion people, it is home to numerous cultures, beliefs, and languages. It is really interesting to note that there has never been a singular synonym of translation in the various languages of India. While growing up, I myself have encountered different words denoting translation while reading books written in my mother tongue, Bangla. Anuvad, Tarjuma, Rupantar, Bhashantar, and so on. Why this multiplicity? Well, it shows the heterogeneity of lenses through which the act of translation has been viewed across the country for thousands of years. The act has remained the same, but the modus operandi has changed with every approach. The Sanskrit word anuvad is made of two terms, anu, follow, and vad, speech. It basically means to say after, to repeat, to follow the speech. It is thus not a spatial but rather a temporal metaphor. This is due to the tradition of orality in the subcontinent. For a long time, literary works were preserved not in a physical space like paper, but rather in people's memory. The concept of originality or the original author was thus not present. Every utterance, while being repeated after a long period of time, gets changed even if to a minuscule degree. The concept of anuvad thus opens the door to preservation of a text through repetition and often a little bit of alteration adding to the magic. The word rupantar in Sanskrit, Hindi, and Bangla signifies a change, antar, of form, roop. Change according to changing surrounding conditions and habitat. The source text thus undergoes adaptation during translation. It develops its own way of survival in different target texts created by different translators at different points in space-time. A close analog is the Malayalam term for translation, vivartanam. The word vivartan means evolution. Evolution is a genetic change in species or populations over time. It can be considered as a process of adaptability in a new space and climate. The text is thus being thought of as a living organism, undergoing evolution through the process of translation. What happens when we try to think of the multiplicity of translations of a single text? A text can be interpreted in countless number of ways, each, each interpretation having a distinct quality of its own. Thus arises another dimension, the Arabic word tarjuma. This concept regards translation as paraphrasing, an act of interpretation by the translator. Thank you.
Thank you for reading your piece. That was amazing. And now I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on your piece. So, Sipurna, we were fascinated by your ability to break down complex ideas and making them accessible and engaging for all the readers. So I know you targeted multiple languages that are spoken across India, and targeting the concept of translatability in them must be so complex. But you actually made it very interesting, and when I was reading your piece throughout, I was constantly getting curious about what you were talking about. So your piece also has that curiosity igniting quality, and your interpretation of translatability from treating it as evolutionary and adaptable and illumination, it was all expansive and vivid. And reading your piece compelled us to adopt a more nuanced perspective on the act of translation. So thank you so much for submitting your piece, and it was a delight to read it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I also want to chime in on this piece this time. So I want to say like you have this gift, this sort of lawyerly gift, if you will, of like kind of simplifying these really complex ideas and concepts in a way that's super digestible to a lot of people. Like I think that you have like this talent for like definitely simplification and kind of uh, condensing these huge concepts into like simple words for everyone to understand and enjoy. So thank you so much for this. And I really like have been my perspective on translation has been changed, as has the perspectives of a lot of the other Astrolite team members. So thank you so much for submitting this piece. It really encapsulates translatability in such a wonderful way. So thank you so much. All right, so our next reader is someone that I'm going to be presenting. It is Noor. So Noor is a 20-year-old writer and medical student. Her work has been published in the BTL anthology in 2020. Yes, outside of writing, Noor can be found twisting her hands in yarn in the company of her cat or occasionally swallowed up in her mind. So Noor is going to be reading her piece, Family Tree.
Hi guys. Um, so I'll be reading my piece. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Family tree. Being a wall assigned to this house sits somewhere between calm and calamity. The flies are back, but you pay them no mind this time. You let them lick their mouths away at the spilled dinner and flee to a coma, awaiting the old man's next batch of generosity. You still like a cemented soldier, guarding corners of the house into straight lines, bracing for gusts and man bursts. Pots and pans rattle with the fiery lilt of the old man's tongue. Chipped cabin doors pry open like a hungry thorax, and you watch still. One frail kiddo body with a mind for a bird of 10, he says. Two pairs of eyes on clip at the center. Trepidation runs like wildfire in this house. Apologetic tangerine, skinned and sprawled on cracked ceramic coasters, couldn't equate to the wrath of the daughter. It grows tall into a tree, marches ahead after each winter solstice, claws and clings to the perseverance and battle of light. All a mother could do was slip into her pearly nightgown and ensure the eventuality of a fire dying down, burn incense and pray omens away, then guard the front lines for the next blow. A mother could have been, a daughter must never be. To disappear is to grow giant, to lay incoming floods to rest is to press the faucet lever and wait for drought. The old man holds a cigarette to his lips after every bump in his shoes, picks up trash and heads out with a blow. And you fight the cracks in your cemented body. Being a wall assigned to this house sits somewhere between calm and calamity. The trash bag accommodates tangerine peels, several unprescribed pills, expired milk cartons, wooden carcass from 2 dinners ago, 20 Marlboro Red cigarette butts, a 70s fashion catalog soggy with window cleaners, yesterday's grocery list scrabbled on scraps of school paper, and the sugary fly paper, pinpricked by a lifeless family tree. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I want to say that I don't think I've ever really read a poem that's quite like this. I think it just has like this super unique take and just such a like singular use of such evocative imagery that I think I certainly have not seen before. I think because of how many super evocative images you use throughout your poem that all tie together so beautifully into like this metaphor of a tree that's completely void of life and character. Some of my favorite lines, I think, definitely the apologetic tangerine, skinned and sprawled. I think it definitely. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? My internet connection is apparently unstable. Um,
I can hear you.
you can hear me? Okay,
You're
awesome.
just a little laggy.
I'm a little laggy. Okay, that's okay. Anyway, what I was saying was that like I think that you have such incredible images in your poem. And I think somehow like all of them just come together so beautifully to connect to this tree. And I think it's definitely an Asterlit favorite. And we've obviously nominated this piece and done a lot with this piece, and we just are always coming back to it. So thank you so much for submitting. We really, really appreciate this piece. So
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
yeah, of course. Okay, so our next reader is Kailash.
Yeah, Kailash is an electrical engineering undergraduate from India Molded by a deep love for storytelling, he believes art has the potential to alter the course of an individual's life. An obsessive thinker, he spends a lot of time worrying and writing, and he'll be reading Tears 1 week later.
Hey everyone, I'll be reading an excerpt from my short story, Tears 1 week later. It's just that I'm not sure if my father deserves a funeral, Harris said as the train came to a halt. It was the day after the second semester had ended. He had received a call from his mother at about 3 in the morning. He woke me up in the dark and told me, my father is dead. I'm catching the next train back home. It took my mind a few minutes to register what he had just revealed. Your father is dead? Yeah, he replied, as he haphazardly stuffed his laptop into his bag. How? What happened? I don't know. I didn't feel like asking my mother that over call. I'm sorry. In a steep diffused haze, I watched him stride around the apartment, throwing whatever he felt was necessary into his bag, stopping occasionally to think if he had left out anything important. I told him I wanted to join him. You don't have to. I want to. I wouldn't if I had a choice. I'll come. No problem. All right, pack your things quickly then. The train leaves at 4. I looked outside the window. The sun showed no signs of its arrival. The air was cold and still. I pushed myself off the bed and hurriedly began packing whatever my mind deemed necessary. Since we had to run through the platform to catch the train, by the time we took our seats, both of us were desperately gasping for air. Can't believe my father did this every day, Harry said, heaving. What do you mean? He went for a jog every day. At 4 in the morning? Yeah, every single day. What's a funeral? He continued. It's an act of respect and remembrance. I don't think he deserves either of those. The sky had by then smoothly and sneakily covered itself in a pleasant blue shroud. The heaviness of the night was now elusive. It's not just that. Hindus conduct funerals to ensure the soul escapes the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It's called moksha, I said. Interesting, he said, ruffling his hair. I don't know you believed in all that. I don't. I'm just telling you what my mom told me long ago. Harish groaned. There was a commotion in the compartment as new passengers pushed themselves in through the narrow entry. The train jerked before it began moving again. The funeral, I added after a few minutes, to break the quietness that had settled between us. Just attended, for your mom's sake. Yeah, yeah, he said as he laid down and made himself comfortable on his berth. He crossed his arm under his head, extended his legs, and rested it on my thigh. My father passed away. You don't mind, do you? On any other day, I would have shoved his legs off, but as he had said, his dad had just passed away. He stared at me and smiled maliciously. Just your lucky day. Enjoy it, I deadpan. He chuckled. Harish and I had by then known each other for about a decade. He was a new transfer student from Dubai with an extraordinary fluency in English when he first stepped into a sixth grade classroom. He was not the most friendly character in school, but he became very popular very soon because he was inherently funny and managed to give the most unexpected and unhinged answers with a very inexpressive countenance whenever someone questioned him about anything serious. Once, when Miss Angel, a science teacher, asked him why he had not done his homework, he replied with no hint of hesitation, my father died yesterday. He apologized immediately. It took her, however, less than a day to see through his lie. The next time I saw him, he had a sling under his right arm. I fell while cycling, he said. It did not take us long to become friends. We spent a lot of our schooling days standing outside our classrooms as punishment. Looking back at it, the first ever conversation I remember having with him was when we were both being punished for drawing an adult sized penis on the blackboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for reading. We were really fascinated by your nuanced depiction of grief and funeral. The stoicism about the character's father's death gains new layers as the story goes on, and we also gain insight into very pure male friendship throughout this beautiful and complex discussion of grief.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone have anything to add about Kailash's piece before we move on? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We really appreciate you as a contributor. And I think, again, like this piece is really raw and a really interesting and nuanced telling of what it means to be grieving and sort of this absence of affection. And it's a really interesting space to inhabit, and we're so glad that you were able to write so eloquently about it and tell this amazing story of these two boys. So thank you so much. And we're gonna move on to the next reader.
Mhm. So Ziad Shabuddin has contributed his prose The Future Has Soft Fits, and Ziad is a second-year computer science student at UCT. He has been published in the Paper Queen Journal and is recognized as one of the 22 English poets for the AVBOB poetry. He currently works at a TA for Polyphony Lits Around the World in 80 Days workshop. So now he's going to be reading you guys his piece.
Is Ziad present with us today?
I don't think.
Oh, okay. I don't think he was able to make it. We'll see. He kind of had a scheduling issue. So we'll see if he's able to hop on at a later point. If not, then we'll just acknowledge that this piece is awesome and there's lots of parts to it. You can check it out on our website. And yeah, so it's amazing. And yeah, that's all I really have to say about it for now because considering that he didn't read his piece. But yeah, feel free to check it out and um, we're going to move on to kind of something new that we did this year. So we had a piece. We started adding art pieces a couple issues back as a way to kind of commemorate sort of like a multifaceted approach to a literary magazine in which we have both visual and literary arts. And so we have a visual artist here with us today. Abhishek Nayak is has created this incredible illustration series in our translatability issue. And so basically, um, this kind of came about where we decided that we were going to add art to our end of year reading to kind of, again, it's not necessarily a reading per se, but it's kind of more of a presentation of the series. So we hope that you guys are able to kind of enjoy. And yeah, so we're gonna move on to the artist statement. Would you like me to read your artist statement or would you like to read your artist statement?
Hello everyone. Hi guys. I hope you're all good. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I can briefly just hover around the statement. So so basically, this is part of a series that I'm making on colonial India. The amalgamation of British India and the cultural impact that it had. So coincidentally, I thought uh, that it has a translatability connotation to it. I mean, translation and amalgamation of cultural, and politics and economical aspects as well. So I thought, why not present something from the series? And this series is all about different events from colonial India, whether it's 1857, 58 revolt, or whether it's the, setting up of breweries, as simple as that. So everything related to British India and how it all helped us to see a different lens of India of that time. So briefly, that is all that I have to say.
So do you want to talk
Okay,
about, yeah.
sure. So this is the first ink illustration that I made. So this is Colonial Carriage, as the title suggests. So basically, it's all about it shows the dichotomy of awe and alienation. So whenever the British people see something really interesting or something really alien to, and they get in awe. So I'm just trying to show a local market and some jewelry vendors, some real intricate Indian jewelries, and in the carriage, in the palanquin, you can see the British master officer basically that I had in mind, and he's just looking around, and the look on his face subtly is that of awe as well as alienation. So basically, from the piece, I want to suggest it's a colonial carriage. So people carrying the colonial stronghold, but in the same time, they're getting, in awe of our things. So that's all about the piece. Okay. This is a very subtle representation of colonialism brewed in hills. So basically, I'm not saying that alcohol wasn't there in India prior to British rule. It was there. But the network of breweries, it started with the British. And it started up north in the hill stations, basically Kasauli, somewhere nearby, Himachal Pradesh, and all that stuff. So breweries started, and this led to a cultural shift. So I wanted to say that food and beverages were also part of the colonial ecosystem. It's not only about politics, economics, but cultural setting was also changed through the breweries. And there's a translatability connotation as well, changing from one cultural realm to another. And with these breweries and the wine and every other alcohol and everything that goes in, the middle class and the upper middle class started enjoying it or having it as a drinking delicacy as well. So that in a way changed with the coming up of the middle class proliferation in India with the British. So everything is related, whether it's food and beverage and the cultural ethos being shifted. So that is another thing. That's all for the artwork. Yeah, this is again very subtle representation. So Shimla was, Shimla and a lot of other hill stations were known as the, summer capitals of, British India, and and that shows the alienation again because British masters weren't able to cope up with the Indian heat, so they used to shift when the climate changed. They used to shift to up north of India, and that's where coffee houses started coming up a lot. All these family owned coffee houses, right from 1840s, 1830s, they started as a place of pleasure and power. So again, I'm trying to show a dichotomy, a duality of things. So it wasn't just a place to have a cup of coffee and chit chat. It was a place where different poignant events and decisions were taken by the British masters, whether it's the Anglo-Afghan wars, whether it's the uh, Durand Line plan, or whether it's the conquering of different states. Everything happened there. So coffee houses, I want to show as a power center of the British. That's why this visualization. Okay, this is one of my favorites. This is the retribution. So retribution normally means a very brutal, a brute force as a sense of vengeance, as a punishment. So one thing that was very common during the barbaric treatment of British was that they want to exemplify a fear psychosis, whether it's the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, whether it's the 1857. So this is the 1857 event. So what happened is after the 1857-58 revolt, the British really, they strengthened up and they brought in army and they brought in more force to quench up, to really relinquish the revolt. And so what they did is to show a sense of fear, to exemplify, to inflict a sense of fear. They put up these people, I mean, those who revolted, whether it's the sepoys, whether the normal people who revolted, they just stuck them up in front of a cannon and they blew them apart. And the bodies were blown apart. And it was a public display. It wasn't just a private affair, it was a public display. So the only thing was the aim was to show how powerful they are. And the violence, the brute violence, the barbaric violence was just to show a power display and also so that these things should not be repeated by the locals. So that is why titled Retribution. Yeah, this is again very visually gory and all that. So this is tortured and indentured. So the Girmitias or the indentured laborers were taken away from India to different places, including West Indies. So this is somewhere near the western coast of Mumbai, present-day Mumbai. So I'm trying to show that place. So here you can see how they were treated. I mean, their journey from where they were taken out from their houses, sometimes with force, sometimes with manipulation, towards their whole journey to the West Indies. It was all filled with torture. It was not a very hunky dory, it was not a very happy journey. And they were bound. They were bound by restrictions. So there was emotional restriction, there was physical pain, agony, and everything. This picture actually shows that the power center that they had, the treatment of Indians that was meted out by the British stronghold. That was the piece.
Thank you so much for sharing this collection. I'm so glad that we got to add art to our reading this year. I think obviously, like this collection is super well made. I think just like as a non-artist, definitely a non-visual artist, I think just like consuming these pieces is just super wonderful because I get to kind of see like, damn, like some people can really, some people can really draw, but also like deeper than that. I feel like your artwork stood out because of its use of like you mentioned, dichotomies. I think kind of this selective use of color as symbolism and emotion in each stroke of ink, which captured and implied sort of these overt facets of colonialism, demonstrates the range and depth of these oppressive regimes that you are addressing. And each detail creates such like a feeling of pain and chaos. And the pieces have such an incredible rhythm and also just evoke such deep emotion in all of the viewers. So thank you so much for sharing. It really impacted us, and we were so honored to have been able to put your collection in translatability. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now that is the conclusion of our 2024 in summary reading. We're so glad that we got to continue this tradition. It's been something that I've been doing for a few years, and recently Jane and Nabiha have joined onto. So I'm just going to give Nabiha and Jane a big round of applause on Zoom for, just like sticking it out and creating everything and all of the materials for us this reading. And a big thank you to all of you guys for coming on and sharing your pieces. It was a big honor to have been able to publish them this year.